Hey guys, welcome back to another Python tutorial for beginners. In the video today we're going to talk about while loops. So many times in programming you'll run across the need to execute an instruction or a set of instructions over and over again while a particular condition is true. This is called a loop, right? The loop that we're going to look at today, there are a few different kinds of loops. The main ones we'll focus on in this Python tutorial will be while loops and for loops. So the loop we're going to be looking at today is called a while loop. And this type of loop will execute as long as a certain condition is true or while a condition is true. And this kind of loop will execute 0 or more times, which means it does not necessarily execute. So if I want a loop to execute while a particular condition is true, if that condition is never true, then the loop will not execute. Right? That's a little bit different from a for loop, but just know that a while loop does not necessarily execute. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and fire up PyCharm. Okay guys, so we've got PyCharm fired up. It's open to our Programming Vault project. And we'll just go ahead and create a basic while loop. So the first thing we want to do is we want to set a value called an iterator, which is just a variable that we'll use to iterate through the loop. So when you're using a loop, every time you pass through the loop, that's called one iteration. So that's why when you see people write loops, you'll oftentimes see them use the letter I as the variable name, just so they know that that's the iterator. So we're going to say I equals 1, and then we'll say while. We'll be making our while loop here. So while I is less than or equal to 10, and that's the condition, right? Now what do we want to do when I is less than or equal to 10? So we'll just print I, and then we need to say I plus equals 1. We need to increment I every time, or else you're never going to be able to exit out of this loop. So if we left this line out and we just said while I is less than or equal to 10, print I, then it's going to say is I less than or equal to 10? It's equal to 1. Yes, print I 1. And then it'll come back and say is I less than or equal to 10? And it'll say yes, it's 1. And it'll keep printing 1 till the computer runs out of memory, basically. So you have to increment your iterator every time to reach your condition so that you can exit the loop. So let's go ahead and run this and just get a look at it. And there you go. You can see that it did in fact print out 1 through 10, right, which is what we expected. So every time it iterates and it says is it less than or equal to 10? Yes, it's 2. Then it adds 1 to it, then it'll be 3. And it'll say it is less than, yes. So that's how a while loop works. So this while loop is gonna execute 10 times, right? And then it finishes. So now there does come a reason. There does come a time when you may want to stop your while loop when a particular condition is true, right? Even within your condition that you've already found is true. So that's when you use the break statement. So if I say here, after I put print I, I'll say if I equals 4, break. And what that means is that if I equals 4, forgot my colon there, that's not even an equal sign. If I equals 4, it's going to exit the loop. Right, so let's just run it and see what happens. It'll be easier to explain it to you that way. Right, so it stopped after 4. So it says, so the very first time it ran, it said, while I is less than or equal to 10, is that true? Yes, I is 1. Print I, so it prints 1, and then it checks. If I is equal to 4, break. Well, it says not equal to 4, it's 1, so then it says okay, and then it increments it to 2. And then it comes back and does it all over again, right? If it's less than or equal to 10, it's 2. Print I, it printed 2. If I is equal to 4, break, it's not. And it does that until it gets to 4. And when it is equal to 4, it breaks. It means that it does not go back to the loop anymore. It continues on down here. It will continue executing your code. So that's how a break works. That's when you want to stop a while loop even when the condition is true, right? You can also continue a loop. That's another keyword, which basically means you can just skip something in your code. So let's change this to continue. And now let's run it, and we'll talk about that. Well, that's not what I meant to do. Go ahead and stop the execution here. So if it's equal to 1, it prints I. This is going to need to go up here. So that makes it not do anything. It's equal to 4. Let's run that just to make sure. I'm having problems with the continue here. Hang on a second, I'll be right back. Okay guys, I see what I did wrong now. So when you're using a continue statement, we're going to have to change this up just a little bit. So we'll say while I is less than or equal to 10, and then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to increment. That's the problem. We were continuing early. We were continuing earlier before we actually incremented the iterator. And so now we'll say if I equals 4, continue, otherwise we're going to print out I. Now this should do what we intended. Okay, let me fix that indentation there. I think it has to, the indentation is really important in Python. It has to line up. So notice how that happened, right? Because I immediately set it to increment 1. The very first time it went through the loop, it incremented it to 2 before it ever printed, right? So we never really got the 1, but that's okay. You can see that it does in fact skip the 4, which is what we had planned for continue. So know that you can just use continue when you want to skip one of the values or several values in your condition. So that's about it for today. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. So what we discussed today is a while loop and the fact that it executes while a condition is true and it runs 0 or more times. We also looked at how to break out of the loop, and we looked at how to continue the loop. And so I hope you enjoyed it. If you find it helpful, please like and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those in the comments below. Thanks for watching.